Welcome back. For over 20 years, Scott Kress has taken his passion for climbing to new heights. He became the 51st Canadian to reach the top of Mount Everest and is now in pursuit of the 7 summits. Kress shared his stories of success and failure with a sold-out crowd at this year's Business Industry Luncheon in Orangeville.
You're walking on a very tenuous line, a very thin line between life and death. And if something goes bad, you're dead. So we knew that they didn't want to be up there during the afternoon when the storms could come in. So we set a time of 1 o'clock. That's their turnaround time. We talked to them on the radio. They were still far away from the summit. They weren't going to make it. So they made the right decision, and they turned around, and they came back down to our base camp. For me, going to Mount Everest was a progression. You know, it's a series of goals. I'm a very goal-oriented person, and so I would climb one mountain and think, what's next? And I would continue to go for something bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously Mount Everest, the biggest out there. And so it was just a progression, a series of events that led me to that. The catalyst of what really got me to Everest, though, is my father was diagnosed and died of cancer a couple of years ago. And it was terminal cancer and inoperable, and from when he was diagnosed to when he died was only 2 months. And so for me, it really helped me to, or really reminded me of how fragile life is. I was then diagnosed with cancer shortly thereafter, had a couple of surgeries, and everything is good now, but again, really intensified that desire to make the most out of life. And I figured if I want to climb Mount Everest, now's the time to do it. And so I set that goal and made it happen. So I knew if I worked on him a little bit, I could convince him. And surprisingly enough, it was actually his wife, who one day they were sitting there having dinner, and she said, you know, I think it'd be good for you to go to Mount Everest. I think he emailed me about 30 seconds later. And he said, here's my money, I'm giving it to you now so she can't take it back. And so Angus really started the ball rolling, but we needed more people. 2 people was not enough to climb Mount Everest from a financial standpoint and just from a workload standpoint, so we needed to get other people. There were challenges of illness, you know, people getting sick on the trek in and having to support those team members to make it to base camp. There were challenges with the military when we got to base camp and having our phones confiscated and being told what we could do and what we couldn't do and how we dealt with that together as a team. And then just the whole, you know, personal physical challenges in climbing the mountain is the most difficult thing that I've ever done. And so the psychological, mental, emotional part of that is as big, if not bigger, than the physical part of it. So you really need to be strong emotionally, mentally, in order to overcome those physical challenges so you can get to the top. And working together as a team was really part of that. You're at the same altitude that jetliners, commercial jetliners, fly at. Bringing my experiences on Everest into the world, the work world, as far as the presentations that I do, the training that I do, was a very natural fit. The base camp of Mount Everest is a great laboratory for examining leadership and teamwork, and you can really see very clearly the teams that are working well and the teams that aren't working well. You can see how leadership has an impact on those teams' performance and their ultimate success. It's a very black and white world. You can really see the cause and effect relationship, whereas back in the business world, we can't always see that cause and effect relationship. It's muddied by all kinds of different factors. So for me, it really clarified the power of leadership, the power of teamwork, and Everest just made it a really easy and interesting story to tell. And I think it's interesting for people, but they also walk away having, you know, learned something about themselves and how they can better perform in leadership or in a team environment. 15 to 20.
We try to have a general rotation between politicians, economists, and motivational speakers. And we thought this year, especially considering the economy, we didn't want to bring in an economist to tell us what they didn't know that they should have told us a year ago. We didn't want to bring in another politician because we've had them 3 years in a row. So we wanted to bring someone in that would kind of get the crowd a little fired up. They found Scott to be very energetic. We've had great feedback. So we're really pleased that we invited him.
To see the Scott Kress presentation in its entirety, visit our website, www.rogerstv.com, for scheduled air dates.